Hello, this is Mark from My Keys to Music. Thanks for joining me on this video. If you're looking for a decent tenor saxophone sound, I have found one on the Nord user forums that you can download and use on your keyboard. It technically uses just the built-in sample, which is called the tenor saxophone, simple as that, but it tweaks the settings in a way that really does make a difference. So I'll put a link to the forum post down below this video so you can download directly, but let's explore what makes this sound tick here and do a couple of demos with different songs so you can see about using it on your own Nord Stage 3 or potentially the Nord Wave 2. Okay, let's see what makes this sound tick. I've downloaded the sound here from the Nord user forum, got it on my Stage 3. I have it located on panel B. Now keep in mind I might have tweaked this sound just a touch from the one you can download, but if I did, it wasn't by much. The first thing you want to make note of is that I have the pitch stick on, so that allows you to bend notes. And then you can also adjust the range of that pitch stick to plus or minus 1 semitone. This allows you to have more fidelity, more control, because you don't want the range too wide. Otherwise, it starts sounding not like a saxophone if you go the full length of the stick, left or right. So keep it to plus 1 or minus 1. That makes a lot of sense there for me. Now, when it comes to the sound, essentially it's really just the tenor saxophone. This is a sample we've had really for years. That's downloadable. In fact, it may already be installed on your Nord Stage 3. It depends potentially on what state your Nord Stage 3 is in, but you can easily download it from the nordkeyboards.com website and then load that sample, and that really is the foundation for everything, but there are some tweaks that are necessary to know. First of all, there's no LFO being used, no modulation envelope. This here is in the middle, so there's nothing happening here at all with modulation, which makes sense because it's just playing a sample at the moment. The frequency is something you want to pay attention to. It's a 4.4 kilohertz. That's right about here on the knob, 4.4. And then there is no resonance. There's no LFO. There is velocity. You want to go 6.7 on that. All right, LP12 on the filter. KB track to 2/3. You do have a velocity setting of 1 here, and then the envelope is as follows. Attack is 0.9 milliseconds. That's really early on the dial. Then you have the sustain here for the decay, and then the release is 50 milliseconds. Pretty early on the dial as well, in fact. There we go. It is in mono mode, but there is no glide. The glide is set to 0. No arpeggiator, of course, no vibrato built in, and that takes care of the synth engine. As we move along here, we do have an effect 1 happening. We have tremolo happening on the synth engine, so let's take a look at that. The rate on that is a 4.6, so that would be right about here on the dial. The amount on that is a 1.2, so pretty early on the dial on that one as well. Just a touch of tremolo. And then you have the effect 2 here, which is set to chorus. So for that, we have a rate of 2.6 and the amount of 3.0. So that's going to be right here on the dial. We do have delay, and delay is an important part of this sound. You can hear that built in. It really gives it some depth and some body. So with that, let's run down the tempo here, and that's a 188 milliseconds, also known as 80 BPM. It's not synced to anything, so 188. It's going to be right here on the dial. The feedback is set to 2.1. Right there. The dry wet setting is 50-50, right here, right in the middle. All right, no other special things happening with the delay. Then we have the amp and EQ. So let's take a look at that. We've got the treble at 12 or plus 12. Right there. And then we have the frequency at 232. Okay, and then we have the amount of that frequency, positive 15. So we're bringing in that 232 frequency to the maximum amount that we can here on our EQ, 232 hertz. Then we do have some drive happening here, 6.8 on the drive. That's pretty high as far as drive goes. And the bass amount is a negative 15 dB. So we're taking all the bass out of this sound. Now here's a real big part of this sound. The compressor, which we don't tend to use very much or talk about very much on this channel. Here's one such case that the compressor really does make a difference. Let's take a look at it. 8.0 on the dial, almost all the way here for compressor. Okay, and the reverb, another key ingredient. We have it on a stage 1 with the dry wet setting at a 7.5. No bright setting. That takes care of all the settings for the saxophone. The only other thing that you saw, which doesn't necessarily come included in the sound that you download, is that I've got the keyboard split, and on panel A I threw the organ together, which is the Pink Floyd sort of follow-along organ that you heard. Okay, and that takes care of the settings. Thanks for joining me on this video. For pro training on your Nord Stage 3, Nord Electro 5 and 6, and Wave 2, feel free to visit mykeystomusic.com. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.